You won't believe what I did. When I tell you this story, you might think I've lost my mind, but after what they did to me, I had no choice. It started with a garage. Just an old, brick garage behind my small house. Nothing fancy, nothing special. But to me, it was everything. A space I'd built with my own hands. A place where I fixed bikes for neighborhood kids and tinkered with my father's old tools. Then they showed up. It was a calm Tuesday morning when I heard the banging on my gate. 3 men in fluorescent jackets stood outside, holding clipboards and smirking like they owned the place. The tallest one, bald head, mirrored sunglasses, spoke first. "Mr. Arun, right? We're from the City Development Authority. You've got an illegal structure here. We're giving you 48 hours to vacate it. Then it's coming down." I laughed. I honestly thought it was some kind of mistake. Illegal structure? That garage had been standing there for nearly 20 years. I built it with proper permits back when the area was barely even mapped. But when I told them that, the bald man smirked again and handed me a notice. It had a red stamp, demolition order. I tried calling the local office, but they brushed me off, saying the land was being redeveloped. Redeveloped. The same land where my father taught me how to fix an engine, where I spent every Sunday covered in grease and memories. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in that garage, looking at the cracked walls, the rusted shelves, and my old JCB parked quietly in the corner. The same yellow beast I'd used for small construction jobs around the city. My best friend, almost. The next morning, the demolition squad came. I didn't even get a full day's warning. They brought a bulldozer, a few officers, and a smug-looking man in a white shirt, clearly the supervisor. I stood in front of them, holding all my papers, shouting, pleading, but they didn't care. Within minutes, the first swing of their machine hit the side wall of my garage. Bricks flew like birds startled from a nest. My tools fell to the ground. I shouted again, "Stop! That's my property." But all I got in return was laughter. One of them, I'll never forget his face, said, "You can build another one, old man. Or maybe next time, read the law before you build." When the dust settled, all that was left was rubble. My heart felt like it had been crushed under that same machine. But what they didn't know was that I wasn't done. You see, I'm not the kind of man who accepts injustice quietly. I've worked too hard to be walked over by some corrupt officials who probably wanted to clear land for a mall or an apartment complex. So I started digging. Not literally, not yet. I began looking for information. Through a friend who worked at the land records office, I found out the truth. My garage wasn't illegal at all. The Development Authority had reclassified the area without informing homeowners. And the kicker? The same officers who ordered my demolition were in on a deal with a private builder. They were being paid to clear unclaimed land quickly. I was furious. I wrote complaints, filed RTIs, called higher officials. Nothing worked. Weeks passed, and nobody even replied. They thought I'd give up, that I was just one small man with no power. But they forgot one thing. I had a JCB. Now, I didn't plan anything crazy at first. I just wanted to confront them face to face, to make them understand what they'd done. So I loaded my documents into a folder, climbed into my JCB, and drove to their headquarters, a big, glass building at the edge of town, with a shiny sign that said City Development Authority, Regional Office. As I parked outside, the guards came running. "Sir, you can't park that here." I smiled. "Don't worry, I'm not parking." I revved the engine once, just to watch them jump. The sound echoed through the concrete courtyard like thunder. I didn't move forward, not yet. I wanted them to feel the tension, to know I wasn't there to beg. Then the bald man came out, the same one who'd led the demolition team. He looked at me like I was some madman. "What do you think you're doing, Arun?" "What you did to me," I said, voice steady. "Except this time, it's your walls that'll shake." By now, a small crowd had gathered, office workers peeking through windows, security guards whispering into radios. The man walked closer, pointing his finger at me. "You'll be arrested for this." I held up my folder. "Then arrest me after you read this." Inside were the original blueprints of my house, the permit from 20 years ago, and a fresh copy of the reclassification order that proved they'd acted illegally. I'd even highlighted the signatures, his signature, approving the demolition. He froze. I saw the color drain from his face. "You thought no one would find out, huh?" I said, stepping down from the JCB. "You thought you could destroy people's homes for a few rupees, and no one would notice. Well, I'm here to make sure everyone notices." I didn't raise my voice much, but the crowd was filming. Phones were out. Cameras were clicking. Within minutes, the whole scene went live on social media. I climbed back into the JCB, not to destroy anything, but to make a point. I lifted the bucket high, just enough to touch the edge of their gate. The metal groaned and I shouted, "You touch my home, I'll touch yours, legally, fairly, and publicly." The police arrived soon after. They surrounded me, tried to calm me down. But by then, the story had already spread. Reporters were calling it the JCB Justice Man incident. And the funniest part? The higher officials finally noticed. An internal inquiry was launched. That bald officer and his team were suspended within days. I was called to the main office to present my documents again. This time, they offered me an apology. But an apology couldn't rebuild what they'd taken from me. I looked them in the eyes and said, "I don't want your sorry. I want my garage back." They promised compensation and permission to rebuild, but I knew I didn't need their charity anymore. I'd rebuild it myself, stronger, higher, brighter. That night, as I stood beside the rubble, I felt proud for the first time in weeks. Not because I'd scared them, not because I'd gone viral, but because I stood up for myself. Sometimes you don't need to fight with fists or lawyers. Sometimes, all you need is courage and a JCB. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing nonstop. At first, I thought it was just more notifications, the viral videos, the comments, the news reports. But when I checked, it was something else. Reporters were calling, activists were messaging, and even a few government officials wanted to talk. In less than 12 hours, my small act of defiance had exploded online. The headline read, "Man brings JCB to government office after illegal demolition." People loved it. Some called me a hero, others called me crazy, but everyone agreed on one thing. I had done what most people only dream of doing, standing up to a corrupt system. But behind all the attention, I was still angry. The truth was out, sure, but my garage, my little sanctuary, was still gone. The space that had held my memories, my peace, my hard work, all flattened. That day, as I walked to the remains of it, I saw my neighbors cleaning up the debris. Old Mr. Mehta, the retired teacher from next door, was stacking the bricks into neat piles. The Sharma kids were picking up nails and broken pieces of wood. "Arun Bhai," Mehta said with a warm smile, "you might have lost your garage, but you've given all of us a voice." That hit me hard. For the first time, I realized this fight wasn't just mine. People all around had faced similar demolitions. Some lost walls, others lost homes, shops, or land, all to the same greedy network of officials and builders. My story had become their story. So, I decided I wouldn't stop with just rebuilding. I wanted to expose everything. Over the next few weeks, I gathered documents, videos, and testimonies from others who'd faced the same injustice. I worked late nights, cross-checking land records, searching online databases, and even visiting offices under the pretense of seeking help. What I found was shocking. Dozens of demolition orders issued on the same day, all for areas later sold to private developers. The evidence was enough to shake the entire department. I compiled everything and reached out to a popular news journalist who'd covered my JCB stunt. He agreed to help me make it public. Within days, a full report aired on national TV, showing leaked documents, my interview, and testimonies from other victims. The city erupted in anger. Protests broke out. People demanded justice. And this time, they weren't alone, because every video, every post, every message online carried one image, me standing on that JCB with my folder raised high. It became a symbol. A week later, I was called back to the city hall, but this time, not as a criminal. The new commissioner himself wanted to meet me. When I entered his office, he stood up, shook my hand, and said, "Mr. Arun, we owe you an apology. and to thank you. He explained that after my case went viral, the state government launched a full investigation. Several senior officials were found guilty of corruption and suspended. The private builder's project was put on hold indefinitely. And best of all, they agreed to restore every wrongfully demolished property, including mine. They even offered to rebuild my garage for free, but I refused politely. I started it with my hands. I said, I'll rebuild it the same way. That evening, as I stood in the open yard where my garage once stood, I placed the first brick back into the ground, not just as a wall, but as a promise to myself, that no one would ever silence me again. But that's not where the story ends, because a few days later, something unexpected happened. I received a letter, a thick envelope with an official seal. Inside was a small note, handwritten, that simply said, "You think you've won, but this isn't over." There was no name, no address, just that one line. I looked around, half expecting someone to be watching. The street was quiet, but the words on that paper sent a chill through me. Clearly, someone from the old network wasn't happy about being exposed. Still, I wasn't scared anymore. I'd faced bulldozers, corruption, and humiliation. What could a letter do? So I ignored it. Days turned into weeks, and life slowly returned to normal. I restarted my repair work, fixed bikes for kids again, and spent evenings with neighbors who now called me JCB by. But one night, as I was locking up, I heard the faint sound of footsteps outside. When I stepped out, I saw a shadow near the gate, tall, still watching. Before I could shout, it vanished into the darkness. The next morning, I found fresh tire marks near my driveway. Someone had been there. I didn't tell anyone, not even my friends. But I knew this wasn't random. Maybe those suspended officials were planning something. Maybe they wanted revenge. Instead of panicking, I decided to turn it around. If they wanted a fight, I'd give them one, but my way. I installed cameras around my house, bought motion sensors, and even contacted a lawyer friend to prepare for anything legal. And while I waited, I kept working, rebuilding, repairing, living. Weeks passed, and nothing happened. The letters stopped, the shadows disappeared, and soon, people forgot. Until one day, I got a call. It was from the same journalist who had helped me before. His voice was tense. "Arun, you need to see this," he said. He sent me a link. It was a leaked video, grainy, but clear enough. It showed a meeting inside a dimly lit office. Several familiar faces sat around a table, including the bald man. He was talking to someone on the phone. And then I heard it. "Arun's not done yet," he said. "If he keeps talking, we'll finish what we started. For good this time." My blood ran cold. I knew then this wasn't over. But what they didn't realize was, neither was I. I had faced them once and won. Now, I had the entire city behind me, cameras everywhere, and proof of their crimes. I wasn't just a man with a JCB anymore. I was a voice they couldn't silence. And this time, I was ready to bring down more than walls. I was ready to bring down their empire. Because when they tried to demolish my garage, they didn't just destroy a building. They built a storm. And I am that storm.